Good morning. Good morning, everyone. And it's good to see you. Good to see you all here today. So in recent weeks, we've been really exploring some of the highlights of the Diamond Sutra, getting a taste of it. It's a foundational teaching in Mahayana Buddhism. The Diamond Sutra seems to be mostly about how we perceive things, how we perceive the world, how we interpret what comes into the mind. And Mu Song, the the translator who we've been primarily relying upon, has a subtitle for his book, which I think is apt: Transforming the Way We Perceive the World. How we perceive ourselves, how we perceive others, and how we perceive our environment, the things all around us. Traditional Buddhist teaching invites us to perceive things in terms of the three marks of existence. That all things are impermanent, that they're in constant flux, that nothing is static, stationary. Everything that comes into our senses and appears in our mind is moving in a way, is in process. Impermanence. No self, that there is no essence. There is no static, fixed, separate thing corresponding to a self residing in the mind or the body. And in the Mahayana tradition, this is extended to not just the self, but of course other selves, others, and in fact, inanimate objects as well. Everything out there lacks essence. Lacks essence because it is dependently arisen, that it comes about due to causes and conditions, will change due to causes and conditions, and will cease due to causes and conditions, that it is dependent upon everything else. And that for those reasons, everything has a flavor of unsatisfactoriness about it. For those who want things to be just so. For those who want to have things stay just so, as we all seem to want to do by default. So those three marks of existence: impermanence, no self or emptiness, and unsatisfactoriness. So in the Diamond Sutra, this is extended to include the Buddha's teachings. It's self-reflective in a way. The Buddha's teachings are in flux, are conditionally arisen. Which is not to say that they have no use, have no usefulness, but they aren't it. The Buddha's teachings are not in themselves wisdom. But instead, skillful means, a gateway to what is called complete perfect wisdom, prajna paramita. It's often said that prajna paramita, wisdom, seeing with the eye of the Buddha, is seeing things as they are. A phrase that comes up recurrently in Mahayana Buddhist texts. But it's always confused me. How do you see things as they are? I mean, one is always seeing things from a certain perspective. If there is a stone, for instance, on a table, a chemist will see that from a certain perspective as a silicate or something. Being aware of the chemical structure. A quantum physicist will see it from another perspective. And perhaps an artist will see it from an aesthetic perspective. Or if it happens to have gold in it, a prospector will see it from another perspective, an economic perspective. So we can't really see anything just all at once from all perspectives. So this phrase of seeing things as they are always confused me. And I think it has a particular meaning in Buddhist literature, which relates to what we just discussed, the three marks of existence, seeing things as they are. Seeing things as impermanent, in flux, as lacking an essential separate essence, and seeing things as inherently unsatisfactory. Again, for those who want things to be stationary, fixed, a certain way. So, yeah, during the coming week, I'm having cataract surgery. So they'll extract the lens from my right eye and replace it with a synthetic lens that doesn't have the cloudiness, the distortion of the lens that is currently there. And this is done in an effort to clarify my vision so that I am seeing without distortion. The whole procedure, as I understand it, takes about 10 or 15 minutes. Would that it's so easy. Would that it be so easy to clarify one's mind vision in that way, the way we perceive things with our mind. If we could just extract the distortions, replace them with a clear lens and see clearly. But it's more of a project to do that with the mind than it is with the eyeball. And that's what the teachings, all of the teachings, in a way, are about. So last week we reviewed some of the early Buddhist teachings in the context of the Diamond Sutra, where it says Buddha has nothing to teach. What are these teachings that are nothing to teach? The Four Noble Truths, the unsatisfactoriness of birth, old age, sickness, death, being around people you don't want to be around, being separated from people you do want to be around, not getting what you want, the unsatisfactoriness of that, and the cause for that being the wanting things to be a certain way, just so. And the third being the possibility for escape from that cycle of wanting things and being disappointed and wanting things and being disappointed. And the fourth being the Eightfold Path, involving wisdom, seeing things clearly, morality, not harming, essentially, not harming oneself or others, and reflection or meditation. And the other early teaching we discussed briefly was the teaching of dependent origination, of how things arise from causes and conditions, and hence lack an essential separate essence. So this week, I would like to just highlight a couple of the passages from the Diamond Sutra and end with the rather stunning concluding verse of the Diamond Sutra. Subhuti, what do you think? Has the Tathagata attained supreme awakening? Has he something he can preach? Subhuti said, World-honored one, as I understand the teaching of the Buddha has no doctrine to convey. The truth is ungraspable, inexpressible. It neither is nor is not. It's ungraspable, inexpressible. It either is nor is not. Language fails. The next passage actually is one of the more famous passages in the Diamond Sutra, because reportedly Wei Ning, the famous Zen teacher, Chan teacher of the, I believe, 8th century, heard this when he was in the marketplace and was suddenly awakened. So, Subhuti, all bodhisattvas should develop a pure, lucid mind that doesn't depend on sight, sound, touch, flavor, smell, or any thought that arises in it. A bodhisattva should develop a mind that functions freely without depending on anything whatsoever. I've also seen that last sentence translated, a mind that moves freely, non-abiding. A mind that moves freely, non-abiding. Not getting stuck. Fluid, adaptable, resilient. And again, the following passage reinforcing some of the previous. And the Dharma that the Tathagata has fully known and demonstrated is neither graspable nor elusive. It's neither near nor far. It's not inaccessible, but you can't get your fist around it. And finally, the Diamond Sutra ends with this passage. Again, Subhuti, if a son or a daughter of good family were to pile up the 7 precious treasures in all the 3,000 kalpas, or all the 3,000 worlds, and give them away as a gift to the Tathagatas, the Arhats, and the fully enlightened ones. And on the other hand, if someone were to take but one stanza from this sutra and bear it in mind, teach it, recite it, study it, and illuminate it in full detail for others, his or her merit would be much more measurable and incalculable than that of the former. And in what spirit would he or she illuminate it for others without being caught up in the appearances of things in themselves, but understanding the nature of things as they are? Why? Because so you should view all of the fleeting worlds. A star at dawn, a bubble in a stream, a flash of lightning in a summer cloud, a flickering lamp, a phantom, and a dream. So you should view all the fleeting worlds. A star at dawn, a bubble in the stream, a flash of lightning in a summer cloud, a flickering lamp, a phantom, and a dream. So where does that leave us? I think it leaves us in a place where we're cautious about getting caught up in doctrines or dogmas or words, texts. But some might say it kind of leaves us in empty space, and maybe it does. But where should we abide? Where should we abide? The Buddha, in an early sutta, um, tells the story of being confronted with two Brahmins who were arguing about how they can come to live in the house of Brahma, the creator god in the Vedic tradition, because that was the goal for Brahmins, was to take such measures, to do such things as would allow them to reside with Brahma, the creator god. And they were arguing back and forth, and they decided to ask the Buddha. They knew he was a teacher of something and might be able to resolve the argument. The Buddha described it in this way. He said, if you want to reside in the house of Brahma, I recommend the following. And this is known as the Brahma Vihara, the divine abode. The house of Brahma is like this. It's metta, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. Metta is a little difficult to translate, and in most Buddhist writing in the West right now, it's translated as loving kindness, which perhaps sounds a little precious and maybe for the uninitiated sounds a little strange. But we don't really have a terribly good word. The metta is associated with the word in Pali for friend. So most literally, you might say friendliness, but that sounds a little superficial. And then you could just say kindness. But to some ears, that might sound a little patronizing. You could say love, but love in English has all kinds of meanings. If you're familiar with the Greek word agape, which is usually translated as something along the lines of non-erotic, unconditional, universal love, then that might be a satisfactory translation for metta. Compassion, which sounds a lot similar to that, but also carries with it, in the Buddhist tradition, some intention of addressing any suffering or distress that is encountered, anything you can do anything about. Sympathetic joy would seem to follow from metta. If you love somebody and they have good fortune, you're going to experience joy with that. And equanimity. Equanimity is steadfastness, steadiness. There is a section from the Dhammapada that I think describes equanimity most vividly, and that is goes something like this: praise and blame, fame and shame, gain and loss, pleasure and sorrow, all come and go with the wind. To be at peace, stand like a great tree amidst them all. So those four things: love, compassion, joy in the good fortune of others, and equanimity. You can visualize it as the four walls of a house, and I tend to visualize the roof being awareness, because without awareness, without cultivating awareness through meditation or in other means, it's really impossible to cultivate any of those four. So the Diamond Sutra invites us not to get caught up too much in these teachings, but to use them for what they're worth as skillful means to help us see more clearly. So I guess I'll leave you with the question of, in this fleeting world, where do we abide? Where do we find refuge? Thank you so much for being here today. We'll go into breakout rooms and return in a few moments. I went a little longer than I expected. I apologize for that. I'll see you shortly.